I think one of the most important things when we lose sight of our vision is to make time for ourselves. And I think that when you invest in yourself, you invest in your future. Disconnecting from people in your life and places that you have to go and things that you do or things that you own long enough to begin to reignite a vision of how you see yourself or how you see your future, and begin to emotionally embrace that future and change your state of being allows us to see a whole new landscape. If you've lost sight of your vision, take a moment and remember that vision and begin to emotionally embrace it. And from that state of being, start to think about the things you want to do, the choices you want to make. Write them down. Review the behaviors that you have to demonstrate, your goals and experiences and how it's going to feel. When you do that enough times, you're changing your brain neurologically and you're changing your body genetically. Write down the unconscious thoughts that you have to stay conscious of. Become aware of the choices that you no longer need to make. Review the behaviors and habits you have to change about yourself and become so conscious of them that you won't go unconscious at all during your day. Remember the experiences in your environment that you need to stay away from, whether it's a person or a thing, just for a period of time so that you can keep that vision alive. And most importantly, review those emotions that keep you connected to the past and become so conscious of them and name them when you feel that feeling, that if it's guilt or sadness or pain, the moment you start feeling it and you become conscious of it, that's when you can begin to change. And if you keep doing this over and over again, the unlearning and the relearning, the breaking the habit of the old self and reinventing a new self is going to cause you to arrive at a whole new future. And when you do, this could become your new habit. To change is to be greater than your environment. That means to be greater than the conditions in your life, to be greater than the circumstances in your world. And every great person in history knew this. That means you have to be defined by a vision of the future instead of the memories of the past. To change means to be greater than your body. Those unconscious habits and behaviors and choices that you've made over and over again so many times that the body becomes the mind. Emotions that are connected to past experiences keep you anchored emotionally to the past, and if those emotions are driving your thoughts and those thoughts are creating the same emotions, then your body has become the mind, which means that in order for you to change, you're going to have to get greater than those emotional reactions, habits, and hardwired attitudes that keep you running unconscious programs. And to change then is to be greater than time. If you're waking up every single day and making the same choices and demonstrating the same behaviors and creating the same experiences, and you do that over and over again, it makes sense that your past is going to look a lot like your future, and your future will be more of your past. Finding the sweet spot of the generous present moment, existing in that place where you're no longer trying to predict the future based on the past, means you're in the unknown. And when you're in that place called the eternal present moment, that's where all possibilities exist. Give it a try. Your personality creates your personal reality. And your personality is made up of how you think, how you act, and how you feel. So the present personality who's listening to this little video has created the present personal reality called your life. Which means then, if you wanted to create a new personal reality, a new life, you would have to change your personality. That means you'd have to start thinking about what you've been thinking about and change it. It means you'd have to become aware of your unconscious habits and behaviors and modify them. And you'd have to look at certain emotions that keep you connected to experiences in the past and decide, do these emotions belong in your future? The beauty behind this is that when you begin to change how you think, how you act, and how you feel, you should begin to see changes in your life. And I recommend that you try it out. The hardest part about change is not making the same choice as you did the day before. When you decide to make a different choice, whether it's to change something that you eat or to exercise or to no longer react to certain people or conditions in your life, remember, you're going to feel uncomfortable. Now, that's not a bad thing. That's actually a good thing. That means you're in the unknown. And when you step into the unknown, you're going through dramatic changes in your own personal biology. When you're in that place of uncertainty, that place of unpredictability, that void, that unknown, ask yourself, What thoughts do you want to believe in and fire and wire in your brain? What behaviors would you like to demonstrate that's equal to a vision of the future? Close your eyes and rehearse them. Review every step. No different than an athlete beginning to rehearse what they're about to do. The act of rehearsing it begins to prime your brain to prepare you for that behavior in your future. And then finally, can you teach your body emotionally what that future is going to feel like before it happens? And when you begin to fall into the present moment and marry those intentions with an elevated emotion, your body is believing it's living in that future reality in the present moment, and you're changing your biology from living in your past present reality to living in your future present reality. And your job then is to be able to maintain that modified state of mind and body your entire day. And if you can, get ready, because something unusual is going to happen in your life. It's the law. The majority of our thoughts and feelings are connected to our sexuality, to our victimization, our guilt, our suffering, our shame, our unworthiness, our self-doubt, or our importance, our control, our fear, our anger, our frustration, our hatred, our judgment. Those are the first three hormonal centers in the body. And those first three centers have everything to do with survival. And those centers are energy consumers. Orgasm, digestion, stress is a lot of energy that we're drawing from our very vital life force, our resource of light and information, and we're turning it into chemistry, and we're literally robbing the body's energy, right? So then living like that for the short term is okay, because the body can move back to homeostasis, it can restore itself, but when we're overdoing that consistently, then there's no energy for growth and repair, because you're living constantly in survival. So again, you can eat all the right food, you can do all the right things, but if you're living in anxiety and fear and you're viewing your world from the worst case scenario that could possibly happen, because that's what you do in survival, there's no energy for growth and repair. There's no energy for healing. So the majority of our thoughts are signaling certain circuits in the brain that signal another part of the brain, the limbic brain, to make what's called a neuropeptide. Neuropeptides are chemical messengers that signal hormonal centers. So now you're taking thought and you're storing it as energy in these energy centers. And if you're living in survival, why would you open your heart? I mean, it's just not a time to open your heart. I mean, if you're getting chased by T-Rex, it's not a time to meditate. It's not a time to learn. It's not a time to connect. It's not a time to communicate. It's not a time to sit down and go within. It's not a time to be vulnerable. It's time to run, fight, or hide. Think about this. If you spend the majority of your day focusing on matter, focusing on everything in this three-dimensional world that's made of material things, it begs the question, how much of your time and your attention do you put on that unified field? That invisible field of information that exists beyond space and time. And just like when you're unaware of your nose, it doesn't exist, and the moment you become aware of it, it exists. The quantum field is exactly the same way. If you put very little attention on it in your waking day, then it doesn't exist for you. But the moment you begin to become aware of it, the moment you begin to pay attention to it, the moment you begin to stay present with it and to experience it moment after moment, and if where you place your attention, as you learned, is where you place your energy, and where you place your attention causes things to expand, the moment you begin to experience it, not with your senses, you experience this three-dimensional reality with your senses, but you experience it with your consciousness and with your awareness. The moment you become pure consciousness is the moment you make contact with that unified field. And so we now know the techniques and the tools to get people beyond themselves. And in fact, we know that after thousands and thousands and thousands of brain scans, that you're at your absolute best when you get beyond yourself. When you take your attention off your body, when you take your attention off your identity that's connected to people in your life, the things you own, objects you own, places you have to go, and time itself. The moment you become nobody, no one, no thing, no where, and no time, that is the moment you become pure consciousness. And that's the moment you begin to connect to that field of possibilities called the unified field or the quantum field. And that field is a visible field of information that exists beyond this space and time. And independent of the color of your skin, your gender, your diet, your sexual preference, independent of your profession, your class, independent of all those things that create separation, that every human being has access to it. We may not be able to control everything in our outer world,
Right.
but we certainly can control our inner world. And so it's not so important to not react. I mean, everybody reacts, I react. The question is, how long are you going to react? So if you keep an emotional reaction going on for an extended period of time, you're memorizing that emotion, and your body, as the unconscious mind, is believing it's living in the same past experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The body doesn't know the difference between the real experience that produces the emotion and the emotion that we create by thought alone. So then the emotion then reaffirms the state, and then people start to use the problems and the conditions in their life to keep that emotion going, and I would call that an addiction. So we become addicted to the very life we don't even like. So it's important then for people to realize then, when you have that moment where you have crisis or something breaks down, that you do have control over it, and it's a formula. And it's a skill, and our research shows that you can teach people how to do that. And so then, when you're living by some emotion, there'll always be a gap between the way things appear and the way things really are. Emotions alter our perception. And if you act during that time, you'll always say the same thing. I should have never said that. I should have never done that. I should have never thought that. I should have never sent that email. So then, shortening your emotional reactions is a level of intelligence then that causes you then to recalibrate. Because most people don't think they have control over that. They'll say, that person did it to me. That
Right.
circumstance is the reason I am this way. Then I would say, if something in your outer environment is controlling your thoughts and feelings, then you're a victim to your environment.
Yeah.
And yet, how you think and feel creates your outer world. So if you're thinking and feeling equal to everything that's known in your present personal reality, you keep creating more of the same. So to change then is to think and feel greater than the conditions in your environment. And to be able to do that to such a degree, then you're no longer reacting to the same people in the same way. And that takes an effort. It's not easy in the beginning. But once you start practicing, you get better at it. And just like anything else, you start to move through your life with more coherence, and you're less likely to knee-jerk. And if you're less likely to knee-jerk, then you're not in an unconscious program.